Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And this afternoon, we have Mr. Andy Lau, who is the Managing Director of Greenbulb Energy, Sdn Bhd. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Bruce.
You're right.
Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome. Honored to have you over. Can you start by introducing yourself and what you do and what does Greenbulb Energy really involved in?
Oh, hello, everyone. I'm Andy Lau. I'm the founder and managing director of Greenbulb Energy. So Greenbulb Energy modernizes seaport cranes in ports and power plants within the Asia Pacific market. So basically, we represent the front line of the logistic industry, whereby our cranes unload and load the goods from the big container vessels into the port itself. So this is what we do.
Okay, thank you very much for that introduction. So right now we are being hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. We are in the middle of the MCO, the Movement Control Order. So how are things right now at the ports, particularly the ports in Malaysia? Is it still in full swing? Or is it, has things come to a stop? What's happening right there? And secondly, what's the significance of ports? Because, you know, for us, ordinary Malaysians, we just look at things from the retail perspective. You know, shops are closed with the exception of those providing essential services. But we know someone needs to make those goods. It needs to come from factories, and factories need to get supply. And we are now so connected to the global grid. So we could imagine there's quite a number of activities that should happen at the ports, but I don't know whether they are taking place right now. Can you kindly put some light into it?
Oh, okay, sure, Bruce. Well, business is still as usual in the port, and they are still operating 24/7. Why is that? Especially in this time of crisis, our country needs a huge amount of medical supplies and foods for public consumption. But however, we expect a lower total volume because of limited manpower. You can't put, for example, last month, if you have 10 manpower working in the port, you can't actually put 10 at the moment, probably be limited by half, for example. Lower production globally, you know, shortage of raw material will also cause delay in goods and foods being sent to the supermarket. So we have some requests here. We need everyone to stay at home because our frontliners are also still working in the port, making sure that our country, our people, they have sufficient food, you know, in the supermarket. Yeah.
Right.
So,
yeah, thank you. Just let us understand a little bit. You mentioned this is a time of crisis and that it's not on full swing, but the ports are working at best partial or half capacity you're mentioning,
yeah.
Right? So,
yes.
Of course, when things are not at full swing, you've got to prioritize, and you use the word crisis. So priority is given to medical supplies and food consumption and other essential goods. Am I correct?
Yes. Correct.
Is this necessary? Why are you operating at half capacity? Is it because of medical reasons, allowing for social distancing at the ports? Or does it arise from other forms of red tape, bureaucracy, and all that?
I think this COVID-19 itself, probably this is something new, this pandemic. And even in the Malaysian ports itself, I felt, of course, at this moment that there will be new SOPs on how to clear the goods, standard operating procedure, which was not much being thought of before. And at this instance also, I think the port people are working very hard to establish this. And of course, they also have guidelines on how to do it. And the good reference will be through IMO. It's something like WHO, but we call it the IMO, the International Maritime Organization.
Yeah, I remember going to this conference in London, I think.
Yeah, so correct. So if you if you look at that, I think together with WHO, they have probably published SOPs on especially on movement of goods, people handling goods in the port itself, because we also have to consider their safety and awareness, which regards to this pandemic itself.
Right. So we have got more than a week of experience right now, operating in the ports. Have you learned anything? Are we improving? Are we able to handle the load that's coming in?
Well, I can tell you they are working as if like they are also working like the frontliners in the medical center, yeah, clearing all the goods. They are also working up and down very hard to.
Right. How sufficient are they right now in clearing essentially this food and medical supplies?
I think for that should be okay. Just that for the non-essential goods, there will be that's the one that's creating the congestion actually.
Right. So there are two.
We'll go to that part later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So so far there are no incidences of any form of new infections at the ports.
Just to share, I think when I spoke to some of my clients, not in Malaysia, but I got to know that one international terminal in Philippines, one of the port was locked down. So because one of the custom officer was there's a fatality. So this is what happens. Got to know that, and so far, touch wood, we didn't hear anything coming from Malaysian ports. So we still have to practice all the social distancing, keep reminding the staffs. I think in certain ports in Malaysia, KKM is also there. They are doing a vetting on the before the vessel dock into the harbor. So before they actually do that, they make a thorough check, measure the temperatures, checking the crews on board. Yeah.
Wow.
So these are the measures taken.
Right.
Also,
other than KKM, do you have other form of support from the government authorities and agencies in terms of clearance? Is there any delays, bureaucracy that you're faced with?
I don't think so, or much on that part. Of course, what I can say is limited manpower, of course. Staff working on rotation basis. So I think at this moment of time, everyone is doing their very best, to make sure we have a sufficient supply.
Right. Is there any effort to increase capacity, or someone from MITI to allow you to increase capacity beyond the 50% that you're operating now, particularly if we are looking at enlarging the diameter of what counts as essential goods? Because even in food manufacturing, for example, you still need packing, plastics, and labeling and other materials. What are your views on this? Because they are not necessarily essential, but they support the production of essential goods.
Well, my personal opinion is still priority is given to essential items, and Well, let's look at Vietnam itself. I think last 2 days, or I think even yesterday, Vietnam is going to curb the export of rice to the world. So I'm sure Malaysia imports rice from Vietnam. So we foresee probably because of this also there'll be shortages of rice in the upcoming months, and hope that we do not go until that extent. And earlier I told you that the one of the port in the international port in the Philippines, they have a lockdown, but I'm not sure how long the lockdown will be. So probably we will have, let's say, shortages of bananas in the market. So regarding manufacturing itself, of course, at the moment, manufacturers out there waiting for their so-called non-essential items should expect longer lead times, shortage of raw material in the market, low capacity, so shortage of truck and transport. They couldn't get their raw materials for manufacturing on time. That's for the non-essential. Yeah.
So now, I mean, we know that there are many things that are stuck at the ports right now. So what do business people would have to do in order to brace themselves for this next 2 weeks plus? And what could we do once the social distancing requirements under the MCO is lifted? How do we prepare ourselves?
Well, I think during this time itself, we should expect when it is lifted, there will be the huge demand for volume and capacity. So we should try as much during this stay-at-home period. For example, try to work remotely as efficient as possible. Of course, we rely a lot on technology itself. For Greenbulb Energy itself, for example, to support the port right now, we do remote troubleshooting. We physically can't be there, and we focus a lot of research and development at the moment, because once this is lifted, we know itself the port need very reliable equipments. So we cannot afford breakdowns. We need to ensure the movement of cargo is smooth, and for example, in Port Klang, 70% congestion of containers in the port, mainly due to non-essential items. And once it is lifted, we really need a lot of support from the front line itself, from the cranes, and then we need the logistic company to have sufficient trucks to deliver the goods itself to all the destination. So if you look at really normalized, I think they need somewhere around weeks to go back into normal mode for the port itself. But we are talking about a highly efficient port, so they also take around 3 weeks. So that's, we have to be prepared and gear up for this. Yeah. So the logistic company also have to prepare themselves, documentation, paperwork to clear the goods. There will be everyone will be on their toes. Custom officers, logistic company, frontliners. Yeah.
Right. So I would see this period of MCO over 4 weeks. There's a lot of preparation done. There's a lot of planning done. So once the MCO is lifted, and barring any further extensions after the 14th of April, what would be the new normal that you would expect? in the logistics industry?
But this definitely will be for my personal opinion, it will be a new normal after this. Based on initial medical studies, there's a possibility or chance that this virus might be seasonal. So
Right.
it will change the lives of many, and definitely it will change or affect future business model. So we are looking more, for example, the new normal. What we expect now is, let's say, more remote troubleshooting, more automation comes in, robotics and AI. With this pandemic, we expect future business model to require less human intervention. Of course, with new normal, social distancing still applies. Why do I say that? I've been communicating with some of our clients in China. So if you look at Wuhan now, things are already normalized. But still, the movement is still very strict according to them. So, and probably they will expect this to go on for some time because it's still happening globally. China is stabilized now, but you look at countries around the globe. Wow, so definitely a new normal for all businesses, I would say. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So thank you. Before we end, I just want to ask your opinion on the stimulus package that was announced by the Prime Minister yesterday.
Yes.
Has it actually supported your industry in what it's trying to do to establish this new normal, to introduce automation, investments in this, or are we still in a so-called survival mode? Because yes, we are trying to survive, but we also need to plan for the eventual aftermath of it and recovery and turnaround as well. So tell us your views, moving ahead in the next 6 to 12 months.
Well, based on my personal opinion itself, with the stimulus, I just think that the government pretty much focused on the people on the streets, mainly on the B40 group. So this is their focus. M40 probably, partially. And I just think that during these challenging times, our government probably they have already tried their best. Look at Petronas, one of our government's cash cow, and look at the USD crude oil per barrel. It was 2 months or 3 months before, it was like $50 over US per barrel, and today it's like 26 US dollar per barrel. Wow, the drop is so drastic, and of course our government with Petronas losing their revenue, from such amount, and I think they have their own their capability are also quite limited. So I think on our side, I still feel yes, these are very challenging times, and also expect a very tight cash flow or working capital, or it still depends how long this pandemic will go. Will probably, hopefully, it will end very soon, and businesses can resume. We don't see so many businesses fall out and huge unemployment rate. So this is my personal opinion.
Right. So what's your advice for businesses to stay alive and hopefully survive till the next the recovery?
I will expect almost all businesses probably 3 advices I would like to share.
Yeah, please.
We should expect new business model. Given this time to think with this pandemic, which is something new relatively to everybody, and now that we are able to face it, we should revamp. There will definitely be new business model to think about. The second thing is innovate and re-innovate. So nowadays things move and change so fast. So you have to innovate in this band, and probably in another 4 weeks' time you have to re-innovate again.
Right.
So innovate
innovation.
and re-innovate. Yeah, and probably the last one is I felt many businesses probably might not have this. We have to establish a contingency plan. So which I think that probably some businesses might have overlooked on this. So moving forward, we need to establish this, because we, as an entrepreneur running the business, we are always faced with new challenges. So we have to always throw questions or simulate, or probably case studies, eventually if this scenario happened to us, so what is our contingency? And I think everyone is relying on the government. So we also have to ask ourselves, what if the government cannot help us? What shall we do, right? So at least this will trigger some ideas or plans in place moving forward. Yeah, so these are my 3 advices that I hope that would help some other businesses. Yeah.
Right. So this is something I should have asked you earlier, but I think I'll wrap it up with this last question. Do you see a silver lining at the end of this pandemic, and why?
Well, if everyone obeys the MCO, I'm sure we can see the silver lining in a short duration of time, and it should be a collaborative effort between employees, employers, government, entrepreneurs. So I still feel there will be a silver lining. Just that I hope that the silver lining will not be end of 2020, and I hope it will end by Q2. Looking at the global statistics itself, yeah. So I'm sure we can do it. I'm sure the country can do it. So yeah, God bless us all.
That's right. So that's a good way to end on a positive note. We appreciate you sharing and giving us your tips on survival, as well as giving us an insight into the happenings on the ports and the logistics sector. Very, very essential and crucial to our ecosystem. Thank you very much for spending your time and your afternoon with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bruce. Thank
All
you
right,
for the invitation.
have a productive weekend. Cheers.
All
Bye.
right, sure. Same to you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.